Ladies and gentlemen, what an honour. The most powerful person in property, LEANNE Pilkington. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming. And what I really want to know is, this is the lady that's in the industry. She's the conduit between all the agents and the whole industry across New South Wales. And she's very modest about it when I said it before off air. Anyone who wants to know what's happening with real estate, these are the two ladies that are going to tell you the most in property. So thank you very, very much for joining us, LEANNE.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And like I said before, I think you need to be my new PR manager. You talk me up so much.
And Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year to you too. It's been a bit of a weird one, hasn't it, already? All that rain and thunderstorms and COVID and honestly.
Lockdown,
anyway.
Nothing's changed.
We're on the Northern Beaches.
I know, yeah,
Nothing's
I know.
Changed, and I think everyone thought that when the clock struck 12, that all
magically
struck away, right?
Right,
so,
yeah.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
No, absolutely.
So what is going on, LEANNE? What's happening with, we were discussing off air, talking about restrictions and what agents can and can't do in New South Wales, guys. I know there's a lot of agents that tune in from out of New South Wales. But what's going on here in New South Wales?
Okay, well, the thing with New South Wales right now is that we've got three different regimes, if you like. We have got the northern beaches. We have got Greater Sydney, which includes the southern northern beaches, and we've also got outside of Greater Sydney. So Greater Sydney includes the Blue Mountains, Wollongong, Central Coast and Sydney, and then outside of that, the restrictions are different again. So if we talk about Greater Sydney, we are back to the restrictions that we saw prior to the reduction of restrictions just not that long before Christmas. So 4 square metre rule, all of those rules are back in. The major difference is masks. And so we need to be wearing masks when we're out in public. And that includes, so for us real estate agents, it includes wearing a mask if we are in our office communicating with landlords, tenants, buyers, sellers. We don't need to wear a mask if we are in our office just with us. But if we have got the public in, we need to be wearing a mask to communicate with them.
Okay.
And so our open for inspections, we need to be wearing masks. We need to ask our open home attendees to be wearing masks. However, we don't have to enforce that. Unlike hospitality venues where they have to enforce it, we don't have to enforce it. But we do need to be asking for them to be wearing masks.
Okay. And look, I mean, people are coming into people's homes.
It's not unreasonable, right?
Right. I mean, just out of pure courtesy. I know certainly for my open homes, and today we've just had to do a very quick flip because we're Northern Beaches agents. So we're dealing with the southern part of the Northern Beaches and the northern part of the Northern Beaches. And so on the northern part of the Northern Beaches, we're only allowed to do one-on-one inspections.
Right.
So one agent, one person. The southern part.
Yeah, you can't even have a couple, right? You've got to leave the husband outside of the car. Yeah, I know. It's tough. But hopefully, not much longer.
Look, the thing is, LEANNE, we're fortunate, right? Because when Victoria was in this very similar situation, they were having to revert to virtual.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we have to be grateful for small mercies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been asked today about rental inspections. Can we do periodic inspections? And yes, we can. You need to check in with the tenant and let the tenant know that you'll be wearing a mask and gloves and all of that sort of thing. Do the right thing by your tenants, but you are absolutely entitled to be doing those periodic inspections. We've really just gone back to the way that the rules were earlier in December and prior.
Right. Okay. So just getting back to the whole
questions I want to ask. When can you guys want to let me talk again? Like last.
Sorry.
He's just your PR. He's just your PR.
He is. He's my PR. And don't they just sit in the background, Lisa? The PR guys, don't they just sit in the background?
Exactly. All right, Mark, you may speak.
Andrew's sending us cuddles from Queensland. Andrew, I am so disappointed. I was meant to be in Queensland next month, and I don't think they're going to let me in.
No, I don't.
I don't think so. So g'day to Jazz, g'day to Jeff, guys. You can write your comments on and we will ask the questions to Madam President. I have a big question to ask.
Sure.
Now, we've got so much money tied up in this property thing, right? All these people across Australia, all these people across New South Wales. We've just had a ginormous year last year. You speak to all of the agents in New South Wales.
Yep.
By one way or another, you come across them, you get the feel. What happened last year and what will happen this year?
Look, nobody, I get asked to crystal ball what the market's going to be like all the time, and I avoid it like the pandemic, really. Nobody would have expected the market to behave the way that it did last year. I think all of us were really shocked, and it looks like it's set to continue. We have got high levels of demand still. We've got cheap money, and we've got low levels of stock. So there's no signs that the market is going to slow down. And areas like yours, in particular, are really set to capitalise on the working from home. That we sort of all got a little bit excited about this year. That's set to continue, and I really think that the Northern Beaches are going to capitalise more than any other areas of Sydney. The regions are doing really well. It's the first time in I think, I can't remember how many years, but the first time in maybe even forever that the regions have outstripped growth in comparison to Sydney. So I don't see why it's going to change.
Leanne, can I tell you, we're seeing it already. I mean, look, we've worked the whole way through Christmas and New Year, and I thought I was going to, for me,
24/7, you're always on.
24/7, we never sleep. But it looked like it was actually going to quieten down quite a bit because I'd had a really busy couple of weeks, sold up heaps of stock, and literally 3 days before Christmas had listed 6 listings. And I was like, ooh. And then all the COVID stuff happened on the Northern Beaches. And Mark and I were trying to look into our crystal ball. We're like, oh, what do we reckon is going to happen? The reality is the people of the Northern Beaches actually have managed this so incredibly well.
Yeah.
So number one, if people never knew where the Northern Beaches was before, I think Australia-wide they certainly do now. And, if for nothing else.
And all those beautiful aerial shots that we've been getting on the news, I think that you're going to be inundated with people around the country wanting to move there.
Yeah. Leanne, I've been a bit gun shy about saying anything like that, but you can. But I reckon what a bunch of exposure internationally the Northern Beaches of Sydney has had.
Massively.
Wrong or right, it was massive. Yeah.
Yeah, and how well it's been managed. Seriously, just on a side note, how well it's been managed. People of the Northern Beaches. People on the Northern Beaches were wearing masks everywhere well before they were even mandatory. If you had to go out, there was a mask on, and those numbers have really been kept under control because everyone's listened. They've just been, this is what we needed to do and this is what everyone's done. So, it's been phenomenal. But, today has been crazy, crazy busy. So I can tell you now, I have not seen this level of buyer inquiry, not even last year. Today we were swamped with buyer inquiry. So it's interesting to note that, I don't think that market's going anywhere. Obviously, it took a dip last year right in the depths of COVID, and I think that was Australia-wide from what I was hearing.
So it was all that uncertainty, right? Nobody knew what was going to the outcome was going to be with the pandemic. It was nothing that we've ever lived through or experienced before. So it's not surprising that there was a little bit of a downturn, but the resilience of the market has been phenomenal.
So, Leanne, you don't think this time round with COVID, and we don't know where it's going to go this time round, you don't believe, and this is just your opinion, obviously.
Sure.
You don't believe that that's going to have an impact on property moving into 2021?
No, I really don't. I think that we have proven to ourselves as an industry and to consumers in general that we know how to manage it. Life goes on. All of the fundamentals are still strong. As I said before, money's cheap. Demand's high, supply's low. I can't see any downturn in the short term.
I'm with you. I don't think. Mark, what do you reckon? Well, let him talk. You may speak, Mark.
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
I would like to it's very clear, and I think a lot of people have missed this. And again, you're speaking to hundreds of agencies, agents, thousands of agents, you're getting all that feed.
Sure.
But it's pretty clear that last year was built off a domestic market. We didn't have the likes of China or people coming from the UK or people coming from any, Thailand or any of those suburbs, countries, supporting our economy. Very interesting. Yep. Turning into 2021, is it of the opinion of the greater sort of marketplace that when we do open our borders up, because with this tree change, sea change thing, you've sort of looked over the fence of the northern beaches, if you were maybe in the city, and you thought, okay, that looks good. Newcastle looks good. Gosford looks good. You looked over the fence on a sea change and tree change. Do you think that potentially our market can get even better, treble, double, whatever, when we open up the international borders? Everyone that's been looking over the fence internationally, that's thought about a tree change the last 3, 5, 7 years, is now going to activate that thought just like the local market has, Madam President?
Why wouldn't you? I actually said to my husband, why don't we move back? Because I'm a Northern Beaches girl, right? That's where I grew up. And I said to my husband, why don't we move back, baby? He's like, it's too far from work. He's one of these poor people that actually has to drive into the office every day, sadly. But yeah, I absolutely think that there's no doubt people are going to be looking to Australia because we have managed this incredibly well, even though, the poor northern beaches people have been locked down for a little while. It's so mild in comparison to what we're seeing around the rest of the world. I definitely think that we're going to get a lot of international interest when the borders open up, whenever that is. And definitely the northern beaches is such a beautiful part of Australia, not just Sydney, of Australia, that I do think that you guys are very well placed.
And also economically, like it's medically, I think we've proven to be quite resilient. I think economically we've proven to be quite resilient.
And such a responsible community, right? I mean, as Lisa said, everybody has just behaved so well during this time. I can
honestly say, and I'm born and bred eastern suburbs, I can honestly say that if this same thing, in my opinion.
Didn't you know that, Mark?
If this same thing, Leanne, happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't normally tell people. I don't think it's an advantage, Lise.
But if this same thing happened in the eastern suburbs, I'm not sure that people would listen, right, and take note and take the advice as well as the people on the northern beaches have. They might be saying, oh, that applies to everyone else, but not to me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that I've got a lot of, as I said, I did grow up on the in that part of the world. I've got a lot of girlfriends that live in the northern beaches, and they've all been so compliant, and they've all had multiple tests. They've been.
I've got a lot of girlfriends as well that live on the northern beaches.
Don't tell Lisa.
Heaps.
So maybe
that's probably a show for another time, Mark.
That's right, not the right show. Now, listen, Leanne, tell me, what do you know about the whole stamp duty situation? Can you talk on that? Do you know much about that?
Oh, gosh, sure. So we, as in the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales, are part of the consultation process with Treasury. So we've had a couple of meetings with Treasury about that. And, look, what do you guys think? I mean, my concern with what they're suggesting is that they're just replacing one tax with another, and they're not. I think that there's a lot of property with people like me, right? I live in a house that's way too big for me. It's just fits my wardrobe in, but for my husband and I, there's way too much space, right? But we don't to actually move. The amount you pay in stamp duty is seriously significant, and so we just put it off. I think that you need to be having some kind of incentives for people that are downsizing. Maybe it's their last move, and that way you will unlock some family homes that we really desperately need in the market, but they haven't done that. So
it would be nice, I think it would be nice to assume that they were just going to be abolishing stamp duty. I think we all just need to apply common sense and know that that's just not going to happen. So on you, Leanne, I think, if the government's going to do anything, they're literally just going to replace one way of paying stamp duty is in one big lump sum. If we use, the equation of, let's suggest 4% of the sale price, with paying it off annually. It could be something like that. But often when the government brings out incentives, it usually comes with a million hoops that you've got to get through in order to get the incentive. It's never that straightforward, like we're just going to abolish stamp duty. So I know I've been speaking with some buyers, so we're just going to hold off. And it's not going to happen.
I definitely wouldn't be holding off because we're only in a consultation period. That's the first thing to remember, right? That consultation period finishes in March, but there's still no guarantee that anything is going to change. So I've not heard, obviously it's only January 4, so I haven't had any conversations with Treasury since prior to Christmas, but it's going to take quite some time before they A, make a decision about what they're going to do, and then B, actually implement it. So
would you say 22 would be more likely than 21 in terms of a year of introduction?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, they may make a decision this year. I would hope they'll make a decision this year about what they're going to do, but government doesn't tend to move that quickly, right?
And
so
they've got their hands
they're not like
with
real estate agents.
What's that?
They're not like real estate agents. They don't move as fast as real estate agents.
That's right.
Yeah, we're pretty quick movers.
That's right. You would think that they've got their hands full with a few other bits and pieces at the moment, being right in the midst of a pandemic. You'd think that they're quite consumed with that, just getting that all on track at the moment.
Getting through, absolutely. Yep, totally agree.
They got bigger fish to fry at the moment.
Yep.
Oh, 100%. So, guys, for those of you that have just tuned in, this is the lovely Leanne Pilkington, the president of the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. We're just going through, earlier on we covered just, what some of the regulations and restrictions are currently for New South Wales real estate agents. So just to recap, Leanne, we are allowed to do open homes.
Yep, we certainly are.
We're allowed to do open homes unless you're based on the northern part of the Northern Beaches. We're only allowed to do one-on-one private inspections, one buyer, not a couple, one buyer, one agent in the home at one time. Everyone obviously has to be registered, and that's electronically.
That's absolutely right. At the moment, we are not required to use the New South Wales Service New South Wales app, but I would not be at all surprised to see that come in at some stage. But we certainly do need to be using QR codes, and we also need to remember that if we are using the Services New South Wales app, we can only communicate with people for the purposes of COVID conversations. So if you are using that app, you can't actually follow people up about whether they like the property or not. So you need to actually use another system. I know it's hard work, but that's the way the rules stand right now.
Right. Okay. So they can log in using their QR code to the Service New South Wales if they choose to, or some other way, and then we also have to record their details as agents so that we can do the follow up with them after the open homes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right, guys. So just to make it all clear, so this is for rentals and for sales.
Yep, absolutely.
Masks for agents are mandatory in open homes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Not for the attendees.
Well, however, so the masks for attendees, agents. People are responsible for themselves. So the attendees are responsible for themselves. The agent is not. It's not the police person in that situation. But I would be making it a condition of entry. I think it's responsible.
Tackle them if you want.
Well, that would be interesting.
to protect our community.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Don't social media that part of it.
Yeah, no, that's right.
So, Leanne, what else is it? Have you had time off? Like, what's happening?
In theory, I had the week off between Christmas and New Year. In reality, I was sitting here for half of each of those days just doing stuff because I've spent so much time doing the COVID conversation prior to Christmas that I had normal work to do. But it's different, right? Doing it when you choose to rather than when you have to.
Absolutely. No, it has certainly been a really, really busy time, that's for sure. And,
Yeah.
you know, and what we were mentioning before, that market has not quietened down, which is a great thing. You know,
No.
it is a great thing. You know, when we rewind back to March, April of last year and the market just completely dried up, all the buyers disappeared, all the vendors disappeared, and then all of a sudden the market took a plunge, you know, 10, 15, 20% in some areas of Sydney. And of course it did recover, and it recovered quite quickly.
Really fast, yeah.
Yeah, it recovered super fast, but we're not seeing any signs of that this time, which is great. People are just getting on with it. I mean, I sold a property today, official first day back for most people in the industry, and, you know, property ready, walked out the door, lots and lots of buyer inquiries. So it's all looking extremely positive at this stage for the property market. What else are you seeing moving into 21? What other great things have we got to look forward to?
Oh, yes. Well, hopefully travel even just to Queensland, right?
I know, it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I just think it's I think it's going to be a bumpy year, to be perfectly honest, with COVID. I think it's just going to be up and down, and I think that the resilience that the industry and the market showed during 2020, we're going to have to, you know, continue to show that in 2021. But I just can't see any signs of the market sort of slowing down. So if you are wanting to, you know, to buy and sell 2021, you know, you might have to do it with a mask on, but other than that, it's all good, right?
I agree. And look, I think there's a really valid point there. The market has certainly proved to be extremely resilient. You know,
Mark, I think Mark wants to speak.
Yes, Mark, you may speak.
We are ambassadors of probably the biggest asset class in the country.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of stuff is measured off sentiment in this country, how people feel. People are happy because of this, people are sad because of that. You know, moving into this year ahead, have you seen any hardship, genuine hardship with, I won't even talk about real estate agents because nobody cares about us, but I'll talk about the landlords and the people that own property. Has the industry had to manage that, where, you know, there's been, you know, because this is something that's really close to everyone's heart. You know, if you're home, you can't afford to hold your home, that's a world of pain. If you have to sell a property as a result of rent not coming in, that's a world of pain.
Yeah.
Where did you see us come off at the end of last year as owning that asset? So mum and dad investors, mum and dad owner occupiers, and where do you see that? Yeah. And I know we always talk about property prices going up and property prices going down, but are you seeing heartache out there, or are you seeing sort of status quo, or people actually growing in this environment from 2020?
I'm not seeing as much of the heartache as I expected that I would see. I think that the banks have responded really well to that, and very quickly. What we are seeing is that there are landlords that are going, I don't think I want to be a property owner, an investor anymore. So we're seeing more people actually selling their investment properties, and that's a real concern for the long term. We need to make sure that there is a reasonable yield on property investment to encourage investors, because, you know, it's not about, despite what, you know, it might sound like when you listen to some commentators, landlords are not providing social housing. We choose to be landlords because we want to look after our future and our retirement and our family's future. That's why we invest in property. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. It'll be very interesting to see how that.
If there's less rental stock, so it could make affordability for rental accommodation harder for.
Yeah. But there's obviously, you know, your part of the world has been remarkably protected, but there are other areas. So in and around the universities, particularly in the CBD and the eastern suburbs, it's been a real issue. There's all of the foreign students that are no longer here, that aren't renting, and so rents have plummeted. That's impacted property prices. So that, you know, that part of the world has been badly impacted. We're hoping that we will. So the first foreign students are back in Darwin already. Not a lot. Yeah. They before
Wow.
Christmas there was a small group that came in. We're hoping that they will start coming into Sydney prior to the second semester, so they'll be coming in sort of towards the end of March.
I thought
So that's the plan.
education's a big, is I think our number 2 or 3 commodity in the country.
Yeah,
and
huge.
if the intake from the first semester is not there, it's not going to be there in the second, third, and fourth semester.
No,
So you're saying that there was an intake
in the Northern Territory. There was, prior to Christmas, only a small lot came in, and
that's great.
And yeah, it's a start. So they've got some programs where they're testing how they can manage it safely. And so,
of course,
my understanding is they were planning to bring them into Sydney prior to Christmas, and then that didn't happen. So it is now prior to the second semester of 2021. So fingers crossed that actually happens. That will have a massive impact on the rental availability and eventually prices in and around the universities.
So the pain you're seeing is in that belt around education precincts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Colleges.
Yeah. Certainly not the lifestyle locations. So regional New South Wales areas like the Northern Beaches, Camden, down south, Central Coast, those sorts of areas have just done remarkably well.
Very interesting.
Interesting, hey? And just given the situation, with what's going on now with COVID round 2, one would think that the government is just going to extend out a lot of the current incentives that are in place at the moment with regards to, moratoriums on terminations and, JobKeeper and JobSeeker and all that sort of stuff. It was all due to come to a bit of a grinding halt now.
Well, things changed things have started to change, and the JobKeeper and Seeker payments are reducing, and they are meant to be over in March. But, it'll be interesting to see. I know there's been some conversation at a state level about what they might do for businesses on the Northern Beaches. So, I think it's a bit of a watch this space.
Wow, interesting. Really, really interesting. And look, it really is just a week by week. I mean, you turn on the news, and you listen to it every morning and you're like, okay, what's happening now? I think the one thing that's changed, though, in the past, let's suggest 12 months since we all learned about COVID, is that we're now, we kind of all know what our default position is. Even as agents, Leanne, when all this stuff happened and, we had to resume back to doing the one-on-ones, we're like, okay, no, we know what to do this time round. Because we just do what we did back in March, April, May.
And the one-on-ones, Lisa, can I be honest, that's just back to what real estate was like when I first started, which is 40 years ago. This year it's 40 years. How sad is that?
You started when you were 5. You were the youngest real estate agent in Australia at the age of 5.
Yeah, and I use whatever I can to my advantage, Mark.
And now you're the president of the REI.
Who knew? But, there's lots of advantages, right, to the one-on-one inspections for a generation of agents who's never experienced one-on-one inspections. They were all saying to me, it's actually quite good. I don't mind this. It's like
you actually have a conversation.
Yeah. You get to know the buyer. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Not only that, but people don't mind you pre-qualifying because it's like, look, we've only got X amount of time slots to get you through. And I'm really sorry, but if you haven't yet got your finances approved and all that sort of stuff, it's just a bit tricky. So, and people don't mind the fact that you're actually pre-qualifying them either.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely right.
I agree with you, Leanne. I love it. It brings up the red hot buyers and you get to have better, you really do. You get to have great conversations with people as well. And often property gets sold quite quickly because you are dealing with a bunch of very correct.
It just gets hard to manage your time, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, it does.
Before we sign off, what's the one message to the property community that you want to get out there that you find is not being projected? Because we hear a lot of COVID stuff. You're in a very senior position, and you get asked stuff a lot. What's the thing that you want to put out there to the property community, being property owners, being landlords, being agents?
Good question.
Yeah, good question, Mark. Gosh.
Thanks. I'm getting really good at this. Yeah, I'm getting really good. I love it.
Yeah, look, I would just love agents to be focused on outcomes for the consumer instead of how good they are. To be honest, I'm really tired. I live in the northwest of Sydney, in the Hills District, and every single bus I drive past has got the face of an agent saying I'm the number one at something or other, and I'm seriously over it. It certainly wouldn't make me want to list a property with those people. So I just want agents to be looking at the best outcome for consumers rather than talking themselves up. And I want them all to wear socks.
Leanne, let me tell you something. This is a true story, guys. Here's a fun fact. I was in Double Bay a few weeks ago and I was sitting grabbing a quick coffee. I had to sit down and make 3 million phone calls and turned around, and I know for a fact there were 2 real estate agents sitting next to me. Yeah. And they weren't wearing shoes. Forget about socks. They had no shoes on. I swear. They had their suits and no shoes. And I was like, what?
What is going on with that?
I don't know.
I think a lot of socks have come back in the last 12 months. There was a time where there was the socks, the undressing was getting more and more common with the no socks on, but I've seen a lot more socks being worn. I think the agents have lost their confidence a little bit and started wearing socks again. Yeah,
that's good. I'm glad to get that fashion update.
But you know what, Leanne, that's a really, really interesting point that you just made there, because, when I came into sales, I've been in sales now 3 years, right? When I came into sales, I was always like, why? This is really unusual. Like, are we the only people in an industry that actually talk about what we do for a living?
How good are we?
I think you girls are being really sexist, both of you.
The analogy that I gave was...
Because you girls don't wear socks, boys wear socks. You're being sexist against the male real estate community, both of you. Shame on both of you.
It's not that is absolutely not my intention. Don't put me in that corner, Mark Novak. I don't appreciate it.
You both don't wear socks, and now you're pushing it on the boys for not wearing socks.
But, the analogy is a surgeon that performs surgery and then gets up on stage or promotes to people on buses how many lives they've saved. I was always really confused about that. I was like, I don't understand. Isn't it our job?
But no, I'm okay with how many lives you've saved. I'm not okay with how much money you've made.
No, I know.
And that's what we do. We absolutely...
Surgeons don't do either.
No, that's right. They don't. Yeah, they don't.
We are a funny bunch, I tell you what. It is an interesting thing. But, I have to say, I'm a massive advocate for just, helping people. Forget about what's in it for you, what's in it for the people. That's the message here. What is literally in it for the people? So I'm with you. Absolutely. I'm flying the flag on that one, Leanne, without a doubt.
I do think COVID did that with a lot of the industry.
For a lot. I think you're right,
I thought a lot of people went back to ground zero and thought, let's just get rid of all the noise. How can we actually genuinely help people? And I saw a lot about not just property real estate businesses, but all industries do that. And those people, I think, I don't think people have forgotten those companies either. The ones that actually batten down the hatches and protect the asset and just how do we help people? It's interesting what you said. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I think that this year has been incredible for the industry working together and the industry working for consumer outcomes. And I just hope that we don't forget that as COVID sort of disappears. I hope that we continue to focus that way.
That's a great message. I 120% agree. I think as an industry, we have done an awesome job collectively. The information that's come from you, Leanne, and that's come from the Real Estate Institute has been free-flowing. It's been factual. I love all the email newsletters that I get from REI. I read all of them. Honestly, I swear, I saw, one today. I mean, I literally read it word for word. I drive everyone in the office mad because I circle everything, screenshot it, chuck it into WhatsApp groups. But it's been extremely informative. You guys have done an awesome job. You continue to do a great job, Leanne. You really do.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming on at very short notice.
Absolute pleasure.
And when you're probably on holidays.
And you are solely the industry to back if people want to see change in property. And I mean that from landlords, from tenants, from agents. So us agents get the noise from all different consumers. We bring that information to the Real Estate Institute. The Real Estate Institute, like you said before, is taking it to government bodies. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the REI, and this is what these guys do for all of you. Because the amount of fights you've gone into fight on behalf of landlords or on behalf of people, stamp duty is another one at the moment you guys are doing. It's a credit to you guys, and I know it's a bit hard for those people to thank you, and you'll probably never get that, but certainly from the industry, thank you, because you are the only guys that will actually listen and aggregate and take all that information to fair trading, to the government, say this is what we need to do. Pat on the back.
Thank you.
On that, Leanne, I know that you guys were pivotal in assisting with government not freezing rents during the depths of COVID. So
massively,
that could have crippled the industry. So, again, on behalf of the industry, on behalf of us and our agency, a massive thank you as well. Again, I think that's a valid point there too, Mark, that, the industry don't realise exactly what it is that you guys do and how high you fly the flag for the industry. So thank you so much. So much work goes in behind the scenes. I know that for a fact.
Yes, that's true.
Simply do not get the credit that you should be getting. So, again, a massive thank you. Happy New Year. And let's hope we just sail right through this year, and then pop our heads up and and we come out the other side and say, you know what, that was another great year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much, Leanne. Always
absolute pleasure.
Again,
love
thank
having
you so much.
It's always
much appreciated.
Always happy. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, talk to you really soon. Thanks again.
We will. Okay, see you guys.
Yeah,
bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Toodles.